the dollar has been overbought recently, on growth expectations. Okay, growth will be delivered, but how much of that growth there's still an open question mark.
Hello, Patrizio, and thank you very much for joining us today. So
Hello.
Let's get started. What is the current situation in China?
Well, China, as you know, has just got out of their New Year holidays, and actually growth is a bit better, but China's a growth problem, really. And actually what they're trying to do is, in spite of some controls and whatever, they're trying to reflate. They're trying to print money. And actually, they have been doing so since 1 year and a half at a much faster clip. But actually, the corporations which get easy credit are using that credit to export capital for investment abroad, and also plainly, let's say, to really export, to put some capital aside. So actually, China is trying to protect more or less their currency rate, their forex rate. So actually, they are intervening, the Bank of China is intervening to support the currency, and they are losing reserves. So we have this situation which is, okay, they're trying to reflate domestically, and the more they do, the more capital is flying out, and actually they have a problem of losing reserves. So investors are watching this, and it's a kind of flashpoint, so to speak. It's not the most serious problem right now. Why? Because the US dollar has been a bit weaker, so it takes off a bit of pressure. But it's certainly a concern that will reappear over the next weeks or months.
You mentioned the US dollar there. Let's move to the US. It would appear that Donald Trump has been correct in saying that the euro has been somewhat undervalued. What does this mean? What do you think this means for the US dollar-euro pair?
Yeah, as you know, there's a lot of political posturing in that. Yeah. But actually, if you look at, purchasing power parity, which is simply, inflation differentials, the history of the euro has been that, okay, it has been overvalued for a long time. And then since we had Mr. Draghi trying to make whatever it takes, if you remember, they have been successful through QE in bringing it down. Now it's clearly, let's say, way off purchasing parity. I'm not saying that it will revert to mean or anything, but actually the euro is more or less in a channel, and currently it has been more at the bottom of the channel and might pick up a bit, because simply if you look at the other side, the dollar has been overbought recently, on growth expectations. Okay, growth will be delivered, but how much of that growth there's still an open question mark. And then obviously you have a lot of deficit spending, tax cuts promised by Donald Trump, meaning probably more deficit spending, so probably selling pressure on the dollar. So I would expect the euro to pick up a bit. It has picked up a bit. What we're using is 110. Euro versus dollar. It might overshoot a bit, but I would say on a medium term view, it's nothing special, but I would expect the euro to be a bit stronger still.
And finally, you've mentioned that we're moving into unsafe territory. Why is that?
Well, if you think about US equities, the case is different for non-US equities, but clearly they're still the leading market in the world. If you look at the long-term valuation of equities, we are entering a territory last seen in the last decade of the last millennium, before the dot-com bubble. I'm not saying that we are in bubble territory, but we are starting to reach overvalued territory compared to bonds. Bonds have had, you can see it there, have had a secular bull market. They are bottoming. Everything that has been promised and starting to be delivered by Donald Trump is inflationary, is creating deficits. I'm not expecting runaway inflation of nothing of the sort, and I don't think that bond yields will shoot up. But on a comparative valuations now, equities are entering overvalued territory, not seen since 15 years.
Patrizio, thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
And thank you for watching. And if you like this interview and would like to see more, be sure to head over to dukascopy.tv.